Hello and welcome to another TLDR UK video. It's pretty safe to say that the last few days have seen a massive escalation in the war of words coming out of the European Union. What started as a commercial dispute between the European Commission and AstraZeneca put the island of Ireland at the brink of re-establishing a hard border. So in this video, we'll take a look at what has actually been happening and why the vaccine dispute between the UK and the EU isn't set to disappear anytime soon. If you're interested in this topic, then you should definitely check out the TLDR Daily channel. Every afternoon, we release the Daily Briefing, where we run down 3 big stories from the day that you might have missed, giving you all the details you need. You can watch the Daily Briefing on the TLDR Daily YouTube channel, listen to the podcast, read the newsletter, or watch clips on TikTok. All of these options are linked in the description below. Thanks for your support. Before we delve into what's been happening for the last few days, some backstory is needed to set the scene. At the height of the pandemic, countries put in a truly enormous set of prospective orders for candidate vaccines, which weren't yet ready. As the science was still being developed and perfected, no one really knew, firstly, which vaccines would work, and secondly, which ones would come to market first. So, different countries decided to put different eggs in different baskets, with the UK buying hundreds of millions of doses from all different suppliers, attempting to cover as many bases as possible without really knowing which is the best one. However, when efficacy data started to come out and it became clear which ones were leading the pack, countries rapidly tried to buy up these proven vaccines. The issue here arises when it comes to shipping all of these nations' orders. The UK reached an agreement with AstraZeneca for the vaccine several weeks before the EU, and as such, started vaccinating en masse earlier than the rest of the continent. In fact, the UK was the first country in the world to begin vaccinations. So far, so good. Towards the end of January, however, AstraZeneca notified EU countries that initial volumes would be significantly lower than expected. Of the 100 million doses the EU expected in the first quarter of the year, less than half were said to be deliverable due to lower initial volumes. In other words, kinks in the supply chain that would take some time to be ironed out. Because of this delay, some regions and member states became forced to suspend vaccinations due to a lack of doses. At one point, Paris stopped the administration of first injections, and Portugal warned that the country's vaccination programme would be delayed by in the region of 2 months. The UK's doses, however, were completely unaffected, which immediately set off a dispute between the EU and AstraZeneca. With the EU wanting parity of vaccine distribution and AstraZeneca arguing they weren't entitled to the vaccines that were being produced in the UK despite their agreement. The EU's health commissioner in a public briefing was clear that in her view, AstraZeneca was legally required to use vaccines produced in UK plants to fulfill its obligations to the European Union, stating that AstraZeneca must fulfill contractual, societal and moral obligations, going on to say that there's no hierarchy of factories. The core argument is that the UK vaccine plants are as much part of the EU's supply agreement as the 4 factories within the bloc. This is why the EU says they have to deliver, and that failure to use UK production sites would be against the letter and spirit of the agreement, essentially arguing that if EU-based factories aren't able to produce enough vaccines, then the contract means that AstraZeneca should be supplying them from other factories, such as the UK's, rather than fully supplying the UK and only delivering a fraction of the EU's order, something that AstraZeneca strongly denies. The EU called on AstraZeneca to permit the publication of their contract, something that eventually AstraZeneca agreed to. The widely redacted contract, formerly the Advance Purchase Agreement, doesn't seem to point to either side being totally in the right. Now, we're far from legal experts on the niceties of vaccine distribution, but ultimately you have to wonder that if this issue really was legally clear-cut, then why would either side approve the publication of the contract? That being said, certain aspects are interesting to take a look at. For example, Section 5.4 on manufacturing sites states that AstraZeneca shall use its best reasonable efforts to manufacture the vaccine at manufacturing sites located within the EU, which for the purpose of this section only shall include the United Kingdom. The EU is partially resting on this clause as backing its claim that doses produced in the UK can, if not must, be diverted to the EU to fulfill its obligations. AstraZeneca, however, is resting on the best reasonable efforts aspect though. In a major interview, the CEO of AstraZeneca highlighted that the UK agreement was reached in June, 3 months before the European one. As you could imagine, the UK government said the supply coming out of the UK supply chain would go to the UK first. Basically, that's how it is. With him going on to explain the fact that the UK is considered part of the EU supply chain ultimately means that it can be supplied to the EU, not that it must, and that only when the contract with the UK is completely fulfilled is there a need to divert. This dispute with AstraZeneca over its contractual obligations continued with both sides buckling down. Ultimately, it led to the EU instituting new export controls over vaccines. Under these new rules, national authorities would be informed by manufacturers of what was being exported, when, and to whom. It would then be up to these national authorities to check, approve, or block the exports out of the EU. The issue here comes back to the good old Northern Irish border. As anyone who's watched even one of our million TLDR UK videos about Brexit will know, the Northern Irish border was always a major sticking point throughout the negotiations. The Northern Ireland Protocol, which resolved many of these issues, delicately balanced a number of priorities, but above all, ensured that there be completely open borders between the EU, i.e. Ireland, and Northern Ireland, with no export controls between the two. The problem is that to actually bring in these export controls for vaccines, the EU would need to suspend the Northern Ireland Protocol. So, last Friday evening, the EU, in a move completely unforeseen by most, triggered Article 16 of the Protocol. Article 16 of the Northern Ireland Protocol states that if the application of the Protocol leads to serious economic, societal, or environmental difficulties, the Union or the United Kingdom may unilaterally take appropriate safeguard measures. In other words, allowing the establishment of a de facto hard border when it came to vaccine doses, preventing vaccines produced in the EU from being exported to the UK without their knowing consent. This decision allegedly blindsided a number of key figures. According to Tony Connolly, the Europe editor at RTE, Michel Barnier's UK task force, the bit of the EU responsible for managing the withdrawal agreement's implementation, was completely in the dark about the move, as were the Irish and British governments. It's safe to say that the condemnation for this decision was swift and came from all sides. A representative from a prominent EU country, talking to the BBC's Katja Adler, highlighted the issue with the Northern Irish move. Over and over again, I've repeated to the press the importance and the fragility of peace in Northern Ireland, and how we in the EU appreciated and respected the importance of getting the Brexit deal right. And what do we look like now? This was a disaster. It plays into the hands of EU haters and UK opponents of a Brexit deal. Another diplomat went as far as suggesting that von der Leyen and her team may not actually understand the protocol, arguing that they came in right at the end. Most of the deal was agreed by Juncker. Maybe they just don't get it. Amid formidable opposition from all avenues, including the UK, Ireland and Northern Irish executive, and many other politicians from around Europe, the EU backed down, stating that they would not be triggering Article 6 of the Northern Ireland Protocol, at this stage at least. They did leave open the option to revisit the issue though if Northern Ireland becomes a backdoor for the UK to get doses. The wider UK-EU dispute over vaccinations got even messier when the Independent Commission advising the German government on vaccination policy recommended that the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine should not be used for patients over 65. A statement by the Standing Committee on Vaccination at the Robert Koch Institute stated that there was insufficient data currently available to ascertain how effective the vaccination is above 65 years. AstraZeneca was, again, quick to reject the findings, affirming the latest data supported the efficacy for over 65s. And in spite of this dispute, the European Medicines Agency went on to approve the vaccine for use in all adult age groups. As of the time of this script being written, the French Health Authority has restricted the AstraZeneca vaccine to those under 65, citing, as was the case in Germany, insufficient data on the efficacy in older people. The saga took yet another turn though, when the Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen, started to undermine the safety of other countries' approach to vaccines. When asked about the stark differences between the UK and EU's rollouts, von der Leyen pointed to a compromise in safety and efficacy requirements, stating that some countries started to vaccinate a little before Europe, but they resorted to emergency 24-hour marking authorization procedures. The Commission and the Member States agreed not to compromise with the safety and efficacy requirements linked to the authorization of a vaccine. Whether you agree with the sentiment or not, these comments aren't great and are ideal for vaccine skeptics to cite going forward. The UK's Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Agency quickly shut down the President's comments, emphasising that it had rigorously assessed the data in the shortest time possible, without compromising the thoroughness of our review. So what do you think? Is the EU right to impose export controls to prevent the UK from getting EU vaccines? And on whose head should the responsibility for the vaccine rollout issues lie? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. 2 quick video recommendations before we go. If you're interested in how Britain approved vaccines so quickly, then you can check out this video. And if you want to know more about Europe's slow vaccine rollout, then check out this video over on the TLDR EU channel. Both are linked in the description. Also, be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you're notified every time we release a new video. Special thanks to our Patreon backers who make videos like this one possible. And if you want to see your name at the end of videos, then you too can back us on Patreon. The link to that's in the description.